Here's the deal. I have a beef with beef in Canada. Recently, I faced a challenge. Could two Canadians actually each eat a steak dinner at the Keg, a high-end restaurant, with a $100 gift card without having to spend anything extra? Most Canadians would say that can't be done, whereas someone in the United States at a steakhouse would think, no sweat, I can feed 4 people with that. So let's find out what's at stake. Is Canada really crazy expensive, or is the US insanely cheap? And while I'm at it, I'll give you a review of the Keg cuisine. Here's what we had. The meal started with complimentary warm sourdough bread with 3 cheese butter. The bread had an earthy flavor, sort of like Bushman bread we used to get at the Outback before the Outback went down and under in Canada. The Keg's bread was incredibly chewy and tough, but in a good way. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I ordered from the Keg Classics menu, which meant I had a choice of salads included. By doing so, we saved an extra $2 on the gift card had I ordered the salad separately. Not a lot, I know, but every penny counts when you're on a money challenge. I opted for the Keg Caesar, consisting of what I'd have to say was the most perfect romaine lettuce I've ever seen. Fresh, no black specks, crisp, and a bright green color that was tossed in Keg's creamy Caesar dressing. They make their own dressing and even sell it in grocery stores, so I think they think it's pretty special. I have to say it is unique, unlike any Caesar dressing I've had before. There seems to be some spice in it that you don't normally taste in this kind of dressing, but I can't figure out what it is. If you know, let me know in the comments. Any research I did only lists spices in the ingredients, so that doesn't tell me anything. They topped the salad with grated Grana Padano cheese, which I don't think I've ever had before, but liked as much as Parmesan, even though it had a much milder flavor. And that was all topped off with buttered panko instead of croutons, which was an appreciated change from the same old, same old. They gave the salad a nice crunch and a buttery flavor. Because the mystery spice was so prominent and so unexpected to a Caesar salad, I'm on the fence as to whether I really liked it or really hated it. Portion-wise, I thought it looked small at first, but as I ate it, I realized it was quite large and I was getting full by the time I was done. All that being said, I'm going to give the salad a 7 out of 10. For my main course, I chose the smallest steak, the 6-ounce top sirloin, which was served with sauteed mushrooms, beets, and green beans, and my choice of accompaniment, I opted for the baked potato with 3 cheese butter, sour cream, chives, and bacon bits. I thought I'd be adding the toppings myself and would be able to control how much of each I was putting on, but that was not the case. I ordered my steak cooked medium rare with something called a Chicago char. I've never heard of that before, but here's how the menu described it. Brought from the height of the Chicago steel mills, where steaks were cooked in a blazing flame, giving the perfect char crust. We use our 600-degree Fahrenheit grills to give you the same experience. So the sauteed vegetables were perfectly cooked, firm but not raw, and seasoned just enough to give them a slight garlic flavor. Nothing too overpowering though. I'll give them a 9 out of 10. The baked potato was just that, a baked potato. The kitchen staff was a bit heavy-handed with the sour cream, which also cooled the potato almost too much. I did appreciate that the bacon bits were real. There's nothing worse on the planet than artificial bacon bits. I'll give the potato 7 out of 10. And if I ever go back, I'll opt for the twice-baked potato instead. On to the steak. When it arrived, 2 thoughts crossed my mind. One was it was burnt, which you can see when you compare it to the non-Chicago charred version. And 2, it's so small. When I cut into it, and sorry I didn't get a picture, I realized it was far from burnt. It actually appeared raw in the center. This picture kind of shows what I saw. I thought I'd be sending it back to have it cook some more, but decided to try it first. Glad I did. It was cooked perfectly and was incredibly delicious. The char did have a bit of burnt bitterness to it, but it added an extra layer of flavor that took it over the top. I tried a bite of the non-charred steak and noticed it had the same mystery spice from the Caesar salad on it, whereas the char on my steak diminished that flavor altogether. To my second thought, it turned out the main course was served on oversized plates, giving the appearance of a small portion. That was not the case at all, and I was painfully full by the time I finished my meal. I'm going to give the steak an 8 out of 10, meaning the overall score for the entire Keg Classic meal is a 7.8 out of 10. And because it was my birthday, the server told me he'd give me a piece of ice cream cake for dessert, so I really wasn't expecting much. This is what we got. It was a piece of $12 Billy Miner pie, and it was not only huge, enough for 2 people, it was also fantastic tasting, with its crushed chocolate cookie crust and mile-high, densely whipped mocha ice cream filling, all covered in hot fudge, caramel, and shaved almonds. The restaurant didn't ask for proof of my birthday, so I shouldn't have been surprised at how many other people around me were celebrating on that exact same day. I'm going to give the cake a 10 out of 10 because it was that good and it was that free. And as for service, the server was a total pro. He wasn't too intrusive, but didn't leave us feeling ignored. My only complaint was the hostess who sat us. She was wearing so much perfume, it was difficult to walk in her wake as she led us to our table. That being said, I'm going to give the service a 9 out of 10, taking the overall score for this Keg experience to an 8.3 out of 10. So how did we do in the challenge? Did 2 people eat steak dinners for under $100? Let's break it down. 1 6-ounce sirloin steak, $34. 1 6-ounce sirloin Keg Classic, $46. 1 coffee, $4.50. 1 Billy Miner pie, $12. Water, vegetables, bread, classic Caesar salad, and potato, no charge. Bringing the total to $96.50, minus $12 for the birthday pie cake, bringing the total to $84.50, with the rest going to the server for a tip, for a grand total of exactly $100. Yay, we did it! 2 steak dinners for $100. But is that reason to celebrate? Should spending $100 on a couple steak dinners be considered a great feat? Especially considering I live in the province of Alberta, considered the cattle capital of Canada. Very much like Texas, Alberta is known for oil, big vehicles, large everything, and beef. Lots and lots of cows. So steaks, and all beef for that matter, should be reasonably priced, right? For comparison, in the province of Newfoundland, where most beef is imported from other provinces, a tenderloin steak goes for $41 a pound. In Alberta, it sells for $38 a pound. The US-Canada comparisons we're going to look at are based on some of the lowest priced beef in Canada, Alberta beef. The cost of beef didn't always seem to be such an issue. As a kid, I'm going to say we had some form of beef in at least 4 out of 7 suppers a week. My mom knew 1,001 ways to prepare it, including a hamburger casserole called Shipwreck that I loved and most of my siblings hated. So with all that beef on the table, I grew up thinking a meal wasn't really substantial unless it contained some part of a cow. But something changed and suddenly beef became a luxury item. I went from eating way too much to almost none. In fact, now I go for weeks without eating beef. My protein usually comes from chicken or pork. Walking through the meat section of a grocery store shows how bad it has become. You can easily see a single roast beef selling for over $100, with other cuts just as expensive. So when it comes to beef prices, we're all having a cow across North America, right?
But none of us have a cow.
Actually, no. The US is paying far less than Canada. Let's look at some prices. It's difficult to find a US chain similar to the Keg, but let's try Texas Roadhouse. At the Keg, a 6-ounce steak, potato, and veg with no salad goes for $34. At Texas Roadhouse, a similar meal goes for $17.69, almost half the price, even with the upcharge for bacon bits on the potato. Okay, so the Keg and Texas Roadhouse may not be on the same level. Let's find a more similar scale restaurant to compare. While not a perfect match, the Keg and the Outback are close. So a steak meal at Outback will set you back $16.79. Crikey! That's even cheaper than the Texas Roadhouse, and actually less than half the price of the Keg. Okay, let's look beyond the Keg. In the States, you'll find Applebee's. In Canada, there's much fewer than there used to be. So in the US, Applebee's is going to set you back $21.29. In Canada, you'll pay $31.49 and get a smaller steak. They do throw in a salad in Canada, but still, that price is more than double. Could it be that's why so many locations have closed down in Canada? Let's see how Applebee's stacks up against the ironically named Montana's, a 100% Canadian casual mid-level restaurant. So that steak dinner at Applebee's for $21.29 goes for $25.99 or $26 at Montana's. So not a huge difference, but when you consider you're getting a smaller steak in Canada, the price per ounce difference is even greater. And hey, if you're trying to look American by naming yourself after one of the United States, you should also try giving American portions at American prices. Okay, let's try another restaurant with locations in both countries. It's a place I can only hope to visit one day. I'm talking about Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Their menu is a la carte, so just a steak in Canada will cost you $70. In the US, for the same size steak, $54. That's a significant price gap of $16 or 29%. So you may be thinking the point is everything in Canada is more expensive than the US. And that's right to a certain degree. But taking a look at another protein on Ruth's menu shows how out of whack beef prices are. A stuffed chicken breast in the US goes for $42 and in Canada $49. Which works out to a difference of less than 17%. So is it just restaurants showing this kind of discrepancy? Let's check out some grocery stores. At a Ralph's in Los Angeles, we find roast selling for $18.99 a pound. And at Superstore in Alberta, that same cut goes for $25 a pound. Tenderloin at Superstore goes for a not-so-tender $38 a pound, while Ralph's sells it for almost $24 a pound. And finally, the biggest surprise yet. At Ralph's in the US, we find lean ground beef for $10 a pound. In Alberta at Superstore, a similar fat-to-meat ratio goes for $9.07 a pound. That is, if you can find it. But still, hamburger is cheaper in Canada than the US. I can start eating shipwreck again. Would you rather pay less for hamburger or the other cuts of beef? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so holy cow, that's it. That's the deal with my beef with beef in Canada. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. And let me know what you think of this whole beef. Thanks for watching. Bye.